Good evening, everyone. I'm Indrajit Kaur Bamra, moderator of this webinar, and we are delighted to welcome you all in the webinar being organized by CCLEA and NPO Committee of ICI. It is my pleasure to be a moderator in Know Your Law Series 31, webinar on compliance under FCRA, including latest amendments which has been organized by Committee on Commercial Laws, Economic Advisory, and NPO Cooperative of ICI. In a short while, we will start this webinar. I would like to apprise you about Committee on Commercial Laws, Economic Advisory, and NPO Cooperative. This committee is focused to encourage chartered accountants to shape strategy, policy that unlocks economic, financial, and social value while combining analytical foresight and commercial acumen. One of the core areas of this committee is to serve the multifunctional task of analysis, knowledge dissemination, inputs to regulators on policy formulation, to develop and publish technical guidance, background materials, etc., and to create awareness for professional opportunities for chartered accountants in commercial laws, economic advisory, and NPO cooperatives. So today our eminent speaker will talk on compliance under FCRA, including latest amendments in this webinar, and we hope that the same shall be useful to members. So we are honored to have with us our esteemed speaker for today's session, Mr. Mohit Gupta. So let me introduce him first before giving him the webinar in his hands. So Mr. Gupta brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to the virtual stage, making him a remarkable authority in the field of taxation and NGOs. His impressive journey and expertise are nothing short of inspiring. Mr. Gupta is a distinguished practicing advocate who has been dedicated to the fields of taxation and NGOs for the past 2 years. And as a member of Delhi High Court Bar Association, he is well recognized for his contribution to the legal community. Before embarking on his legal career, Mr. Gupta served as a practicing chartered accountant in Delhi for over a decade, starting in 2010. His invaluable experience spans more than 10 years in the realms of NGOs and taxation. And apart from this, his educational background is equally impressive. He's a commerce graduate from Rajdhani College, Delhi University, having graduated in 2008. Furthermore, we know that he's a fellow member of ICI since 2010, and in 2015, he broadened his horizons by obtaining a degree in law from the Law Faculty of Delhi. So, welcome, sir. Welcome for the webinar.
Thank you. Can we start?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, everyone. I sincerely thanks ICI for inviting me and to speak on the topic which is very close to my heart, FCRA. It's not you can say a very glamorous topic, just like the taxation GST, which is very boiling topic these days. But FCRA, those who are practicing in the field of charitable institutions and the charitable institutions itself, they know how complicated, how technical, and how important FCRA is for this institutional sector. It's an historic law. Firstly came into picture in 1976, then amendment came and a fresh law came into picture in 2010, and thereafter a lot of amendments with the passage of time and with the requirement of this dynamic you can say world. So today what we are going to discuss, we will discuss the compliances which are required to be fulfilled under FCRA law and certain latest amendments. So when we are talking about latest amendments, we'll try to cover amendments in last 2 to 3 years. Majorly, there is a reshuffle in FC returns, FCRA registration, and FCRA banking structure. So we'll discuss all these things. Uh, I I'm not in practice of making a formalized presentation because I am always of the belief that a presentation restricts the discussion. So we'll have an open discussion, and I'm hopeful we'll also have a question answer session at the end also. We'll be happy to take up the queries of the members. And I does not consider myself as an expert, or you can say uh, having such command on any topic. I'm just a learner like you, a student like you. You can consider me as a old student, an older student than you. So we'll try to tell my experience alongside the discussion for this topic. FCRA. So FCRA means Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. Interestingly, it is governed by Ministry of Home Affairs. So it belongs to, somehow you can say, finance sector, but it is governed by MHA. And the only reason why it is governed by MHA, because it involves foreign funding, and somehow it relates to the internal security of the country. So government wants to make sure that any fund which comes to India, and which is not a business fund, because if you want to receive any funds in India, either it is covered by FEMA or it is covered by FCRA. So if it is not covered by FEMA, you can by default presume that it is covered by FCRA. So government want to make sure that if there is any inflow, they want to check the source of the fund and the purpose of the fund, and that is a fair dealing. So it should be checked. So if you are talking about latest FCRA, it came into picture in 2010. So Parliament passed the act, and it got enacted. Earlier act got repealed, which came into picture in 1976. So the flow foreign contribution in India is regulated under FCRA Act, and there are certain rules were framed which are termed as Foreign Contribution Regulation Rules 2011. We will termed as FCRR, Foreign Contribution Regulation Rules. FCRR, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, FCRA. And this act got implemented from 1st of April 2011. So enacted in 2010, implemented in 2011. If you will see what is to whom this FCRA Act applies, according to section 1 subsection 2 of the act, it says that it applies to whole of India, citizen of India outside India, and associate branches or subsidiaries outside India of companies or body corporates registered or incorporated in India. So those who are in India, plus if Indian citizens residing abroad and Indian entities having their branches and offices outside abroad, they are also covered with this FCRA Act. Now, the most important definition under FCRA is what is foreign contribution. What can be considered as a foreign contribution, what cannot be considered as a foreign contribution. So what is a foreign contribution? You have to see section 2 subsection 1 clause H for that. Foreign contribution means the donation, delivery or transfer made by any foreign source of any article, not being an article given to a person as a gift for his personal use, if the market value in India of such article on the date of such gift is more than such sum as may be specified from time to time by the central government. So as we discussed, anything which is not covered by FEMA is under FCRA Act. So it does not restrict that FCRA only covers charitable institution. It also covers individuals, HUF, any entities. Majorly, broadly, FCRA Act registration is only and only taken by the charitable institutions. But for individuals, generally what happens that bank act as a, you can say, authorized dealer. So all the FCRA declarations are taken by the bank and submitted to the MHA. That is the general practice. If any one of you have seen, if you have received certain money from outside India as a gift from any relative, you will find bank will take certain declarations from you, and they are under FCRA Act, other than general banking practices, they used to take that declaration under FCRA Act and then they used to send it to the MHA. So it is not like that any person who have received fund from outside India, and if it is a foreign contribution, then you are supposed to take the registration. That is not the process. Registration is for the specific requirement. There is also a second process, which is termed as prior permission. So there is a concept of prior permission, there is a concept of registration. And thirdly, if it is a one-time payment and you are not an entity, you are an individual, you are an HUF, then bank works as a authorized dealer or aggregator in that particular situation. Now, who can receive foreign contribution? Any person can receive foreign contribution subject to the following conditions: that it must have a definite cultural, economic, educational, religious, and social program. It must obtain the FCRA registration prior permission from the central government. It must not be prohibited under Section 3 of the FCRA Act. So there are certain restrictions on the under the FCRA Act. There are certain persons who are not permitted to take the foreign contribution. Say you are a government employee, you are elected member of legislature or parliament, you are contesting elections. So there are certain persons and categories who are restricted, who are not permitted to take foreign contribution. However, the major technical cheese, if we are talking from the perspective of a charitable institution, see, the basic definition of charitable institution is given under Section 2, subsection 15 of the Income Tax Act. If you will read that definition, that is a very comprehensive definition. It specifies 6 categories of activities as charitable activities. If you will read Goods and Services Tax Act, you will find that exactly income tax definition is not replicated under the GST Act. They have given their own categories under the exemption notification. Similarly, under FCRA Act, they have their own categories of specifying that who can take foreign contribution. So what are their categories? They have defined cultural, economic, education, religious, and social program. So you will find that medical is not there specifically. Yoga is not there specifically. Protection of environment and wildlife is not there specifically. However, these things are covered specifically under the Income Tax Act. So you will find a difference in the definition under FCRA as well as under, and this is you please don't consider that can be a mistake or something. That has been you can say intentionally done by the government. So under FCRA, they have specifically considered that you are permitted to take the foreign contribution only when you are doing these activities: cultural, economic, educational, religious, and social programs. So it has a broader definition as compared to income tax. Now, under the FCRA Act, who is termed as a person? So what we are doing right now, we are just making our base, because today we are going to touch compliance and the latest amendments. But from my perspective, I am just going through the basic structure of the FCRA Act, presuming that all of you being the expert in your field, but still a beginner or learner under the FCRA Act. And I'm with that presumption, we have just started our discussion. So within first 10, 15, 20 minutes, we'll go with the basic, and then we'll start our main agenda. So who is termed as a person under the FCRA Act? A person is an individual, an HUF, an association, a company registered under Section 8 or Section 25 of the Companies Act, these, or a society, a trust. So when we are talking about association, that itself covers society and trust. So these persons or these categories are allowed to take foreign contribution under the FCRA Act. Now let's discuss the forms, the category of forms, and what are their usage and what are their requirements. Historically, the forms has been changed. They are very dynamic. They used to be changed from time to time, but basic nomenclature of forms doesn't change. Under the old act FCRA 1976, form serial numbers were different. Under the new act, form serial number are different. If we are talking about annual or regular compliances under FCRA, there were two annual or regular compliances earlier. One was that you are supposed to do the quarterly reporting of your grants, that you can do on your website, or you can also do on the FCRA website. FCRA have a very dynamic website. Under FCRA, 100% compliance are online. It is completely faceless. There is no requirement to meet any officer face to face. There is a one-way communication. If government wants to communicate you, they will approach you. Otherwise, you are not supposed to approach to government physically or face to face. Everything is online. Every uh, form is online. Every application is online. So their portal is a very comprehensive portal. It is a completely faceless portal. You can do all the compliances online from registration till the surrender of FCRA number. Earlier, FCRA surrender process was not there, but now you can also surrender the FCRA. So we'll discuss all these things. So under old act, forms number were different. Under new act, forms number are different. Still, in general parlance, people used to name form numbers with the old, like in the old act, annual return was FC6, but now in the new act, annual return is FC4. It is just like Companies Act. Under Companies Act, charitable entity was under Section 25, and under the Companies Act 2013, sorry, the charitable entities are under Section 8. So if someone today calls that I have a Section 25 company, other person generally presumes that he is talking about the non-profit and companies. So and in FCRA also, annual return. So there are only two compliances. One is that on quarterly basis, you are supposed to declare your donations, donor-wise donations on FCRA website or on your website. So you had the flexibility. Those charitable entities who had their own websites, they generally declare on their website. And the entities who are smaller entities or who don't own their website or don't want to declare their information, these critical information on their website, they used to report on FCRA website. Secondly, there is a concept of annual return. Now, what is an annual return? Annual return is annual audit under FCRA Act. So then the deadline date is 31st December of the next year. So if we're talking about annual compliance, there is only one compliance. You are supposed to file annual return with the FCRA department, that is in form FC4. Along with that form, you are supposed to attach audited financial statements of the entity, only and only related to foreign contribution, not related to domestic contribution or domestic transactions, only and only related to foreign contribution. So there are separate sort of accounts for the foreign contribution. So let us start with the compliances. So first of all, under FCRA Act, you are supposed to maintain separate books of accounts as specified under the Income Tax Act also, that if you are doing commercial operations under Income Tax Act, any charitable entity does the commercial operation, they are supposed to maintain separate set of accounts for those commercial operations. Similarly, if we are talking about a charitable entity or NGO or a trust, they are getting domestic donations, grants, as well as they are getting foreign contribution, then they have to maintain two sets of accounts, one for the domestic donation and grants and one for the foreign contribution. If we are talking about foreign contribution, then bank accounts are separate, and your books of accounts are separate. Your balance sheet shall be prepared separately, and from the perspective of FCRA Act. From the perspective of Income Tax Act or from the perspective of consolidated audit, you need to combine both the accounts, domestic as well as FCRA, and then you submit your income tax return. You do your audit under the Income Tax Act or under the Trust Act as applicable upon you. But for FCRA purposes, please appreciate the fact that you are supposed to maintain separate set of books of accounts under the FCRA Act. Every expenditure which is related to foreign contribution need to be done from the foreign contribution bank accounts only. Now, if you're talking about the bank accounts, earlier, what was the situation before 1st of May 2021? What was the situation? That any entity can maintain their main contribution bank account in any bank account which is listed on FCRA website. And there were 62 bank accounts which were listed on FCRA bank accounts. But MHA came up with this circular. They stated that every entity who is registered with FCRA, their main bank account in which they can receive the foreign contribution can only and only with the State Bank of India Sansad Marg branch. So with the Parliament Street SBI branch, you can only have your main bank account in which you can only receive the contribution. So there was a huge charge among the charitable entities. They have shifted their bank accounts. Government have done that facilities. They have also provided the extended period. But now, what is the situation? That if you want to register a new entity, you have to open a bank account with SBI Sansad Marg, and then you have to apply for the FCRA registration. And if you are an existing entity, you can only receive your foreign contribution in your SBI account with Sansad Marg, and thereafter you can transfer that fund to your utilization accounts. And these utilization bank accounts can be in under different banks. So they are not supposed to be in SBI. So under FCRA, we can have multiple bank accounts, but foreign contribution can only be received in one bank account, which is SBI Sansad Marg. And you can open multiple and number of bank accounts for the utilization of the funds. And these bank accounts can be in any bank account. Any bank account means the bank accounts which are mentioned on FCRA website, and these are 62 bank accounts. You can presume that all the nationalized banks are covered in this list. So utilization bank accounts are different. Contribution receipt bank account is different. So it is not possible that you can receive foreign contribution in multiple bank accounts. It can only be received in one bank account, which is maintained by you with SBI at Sansad Marg. One practical question arises in this case, that you are a charitable entity. So we'll majorly talk about charitable entity, because FCRA majorly hits charitable entities because compliance burden is upon them only. If you are an individual receiving grant, if you are receiving hospitality, there is a one-time compliance which is generally done through AD Banker. So there is no registration compliance requirement is there. So that's why we will majorly talk about the charitable entities. So say you are a charitable entity having your operations in Kerala, Maharashtra, West Bengal, Assam. So why I'm named these states? Because SBI Sansad Marg is in New Delhi. So how practically any entity which is far away from New Delhi get their bank account opened in SBI Sansad Marg? So for that, State Bank have given a facility that you can approach any local branch of State Bank of India in your city. You submit your documents there. They will internally reach to Sansad Marg. Sansad Marg will open the SBI Sansad Marg will open your bank account, and then you can start your operations from your location only. So you are not supposed to visit Delhi, or you are not supposed to come to Delhi only and only to open your bank accounts. That can be done from your location only. So SBI is providing that facility, that you are not supposed to visit Delhi. You can do it from your location only. So that facility is there. As we know that it's a high-tech environment. These days, FCRA is completely online. So these kind of facilities are provided by the bank, specifically the SBI Bank, for the FCRA purpose, that you are not supposed to visit Delhi to open the bank account. You can do it from your local branch office. However, your bank account will open only in SBI Sansad Marg. Your bank statement is there. You can do all the transactions through net banking and online stuff through check and everything. But to open the bank account, it is not uh, requirement that you have to physically travel, or the trustees have to travel to Delhi. So that is the one thing. So you have opened your bank account, you have maintained your separate books of accounts. Then what you have to do, you have to take the registration, or you have to take the prior permission. Now, who can take the registration and who can take the prior permission? For that, we have to see that whether you are eligible to take the registration or not. So there is a certain condition to take the registration. If you are not eligible to take the registration, then you can go for the prior permission. So who is eligible to take the registration, or who should apply for the registration? Firstly, first and foremost requirement is that your entity should be minimum 3-year old. So as a fresh entity, you cannot apply for FCRA registration. However, income tax allows you that obtain 1280G registration even as a new entity who has who doesn't have any operations. Legally, it is permitted. Is there are judgment which says that operation is not a mandatory requirement to obtain 1280G registration. However, under the FCRA Act, you can only obtain registration if you are a 3-year-old entity. Then you are a 3-year-old entity. What is the next condition? That you have a past history of doing charitable activity of minimum of 25 lakhs per year for a particular sector. So we discussed what are the sectors under FCRA: social, cultural, economical. So education. So there are multiple sectors under which you have to apply, under multiple categories under which you have to apply the registration. So you must have a history of doing the activities. You must have the commitment from a foreign donor that they will give you donation, and that commitment should be of minimum 50 lakhs in Indian rupees. So there must be some donor who is ready to give you donation, or who is ready to give you foreign contribution. If you are talking about the exact word under FCRA Act, that you must have someone who is ready to give you foreign contribution which is more than 50 lakhs, then you can apply for for FCRA registration. So see, you must be a 3-year-old entity. You have got your books of accounts audited. You have done the transactions, or you have the you have your entity has done the charitable activities in a particular field. You have a committed donor who is ready to give you donation, and that is more than 50 lakhs in a year. Then you can directly go for the FCRA registration. You apply for the FCRA registration. Government used to take 6 months to check whether they found you suitable to get the registration or not. In different situation, say you don't have a history of 3 year, or your activities are less, or you have a committed donor but they are ready to give you one time donation or one time foreign contribution of say 20 lakhs, 25 lakhs, 30 lakhs, then instead of getting the registration, you can simply apply for a prior period permission. Prior permission, you can simply go for a prior permission. You apply for the prior permission form. You have to attach all the documents, majorly your accounts, your projections. List of documents are there with the paper, so everything is online. List of documents are there, but the most crucial element, or the one of the most crucial document, is the commitment letter from the foreign source. The foreign source must commit that we are ready to give you this much of foreign contribution if you have the prior permission, or if you have the registration. So you are ready to do get the registration done. Now what you have to do, you have to apply for the registration under a specific category. Now what are the categories? As we have discussed earlier, the categories are definite: cultural, economic, educational, religious, or social program. However, under Income Tax Act, as I discussed, that you have categories of medical sector, you have categories for yoga, you have for climate change, you have for wildlife. So what they have to do, so you have to see under which of these categories you find yourself fit or suitable, that whether you are covered under cultural, you are covered under economic, you are covered under educational, religious, or social program. So social program is a broader term, so you have to see whether you are covered under that category or not. You have to submit the list of documents. You have to submit the documents which are specifically enlisted uh, with the registration application. But my recommendation always there, that you should attach 3 additional documents along with the details or along with the list mentioned with the FCRA registration application. One, you should attach your past activities, details, photographs along with your future programs. So one, so this is a technical para. This is not a, you can say financial document. It's a technical document that what you have done and what you are going to do if you will get the FCRA registration. Secondly, you should attach 12AA TG registration that will give you an upper age. It is not a mandatory document under the FCRA Act. So FCRA law doesn't presume that you should be registered under Income Tax Act or you should have the tax exemption under Income Tax Act to obtain FCRA registration. Even without 12AA TG, you can apply for the FCRA registration. But my recommendation is always there that better you get a 12AA TG registration first and then attach it with the application. And thirdly, that try to attach more and more foreign contribution commitment letters. Don't presume that you have a commitment letter from a single party that it will be sufficient to take the FCR registration, because government, while giving the FCR registration, have their own point of view of scrutinizing the things. And one of the crucial element is related party, that the entity who is applying the registration, the kind of trustees or members are there, and the donor who has committed the foreign contribution, whether there is a relationship between them or not. And if government assess there is a kind of relationship between them, then that particular registration can be under the suspense or under the radar, and there is a possibility that you cannot get the registration. So it is always better if you have more than one commitment letter. Please attach all the commitment letters, and along with the commitment letter also try to attach the profile of that donor to make the things more and more transparent. That will help you that to obtain the FCRA registration very smoothly. Now you have applied for the FCRA registration, you have all the documents, government has scrutinized the things, they have granted you the FCRA registration. This FCRA registration which you have obtained is not for indefinite period. It is for the limited period. And what is the time period? 5 years. Earlier, before 2016, FCRA registration was once taken is for the indefinite period until unless it is revoked. Just like under Income Tax Act, once you have obtained 12AA TG registration, it was for the perpetuity until unless it was cancelled. So in 2016, government came up with an amendment stating that FCRA registration shall only be valid for 5 years. And after every 5 years, you are supposed to renew your FCRA registration, and there is a form for the renewal of registration. If government finds it suitable, they can also get your audit done. FCRA department will write a letter to you. They will send their requirement. Their team will come to your place. They will audit your accounts. That team will submit their internal report to the FCRA department. And then FCRA department, if finds fits, they will provide you FCRA renewal registration. If they doesn't find fit, they can not. It doesn't presume they will reject the renewal application. Obviously, if if 5 years are completed and registration is not renewed, that itself means that registration has been cancelled, or you can say the registration validation period is over. So if your renewal application is filed, they will reject the renewal application. If negative report is received, or in case audit is not done, they will assess on the basis of your submission, and if they find it suitable, they will grant the renewal for further 5 years. If they doesn't find it suitable, they will reject the renewal. If renewal is not filed, then your registration is over and you are supposed to file the fresh application again. In case your FCRA registration got cancelled or renewal is not filed, your validity is over, then in that situation, you are not supposed to do the utilization of funds which are lying in your bank account. It is not permissible, or I will say it is not recommended, that suppose on the last date of your valid registration, you had suppose 50 lakhs in your FCRA account, the total of your receipt account and your utilization accounts, because you have multiple bank accounts with you. If the total amount lying is 50 lakhs, including the FDs and everything, then my recommendation is to stop utilizing that fund. Firstly, get the registration renewed, or apply for the fresh registration, or take the prior permission, as the options are available with you. But please do not use the fund once your registration has been suspended, or your registration has been cancelled, or the validity tenure has been over. That can have a negative repercussions. There are huge penalties under the FCRA Act. Now let us see the forms. So we'll start from very beginning. So the first form is FC1. So what is the purpose of form FC1? There is a part A of the form, there is a part B of the form, then there is a part C and part D of the form. So part A is for the individuals and HUFs. So if any individual or HUF received any gift from its relatives from outside India, and the amount of gift is more than 10 lakhs in a particular year. So earlier this limit was 1 lakh, now this limit has been increased to 10 lakhs. So if you have good relatives who are ready to give you gift, and that is from also outside India, generally people doesn't have these relatives in this modern world, but you are very lucky, you have relatives who are ready to give you gifts, and that is from outside India, and that is also more than rupees 10 lakhs in a particular year. Then in that particular situation, you are supposed to declare that gift to FCRA department or MHA through form FC1 part A. And for that, you are not supposed to take any prior permission. You are not supposed to take any registration. That will be done through your banker only, the bank in which you have received the funds. They will get the formalities completed and they will send it to FCRA department. Once the limit exceeds 10 lakhs in any particular year, every time you will receive the gift, you have to give that declaration. So it is not a once in a year, every time once. So take a live example. In the first installment, you have received 5 lakhs. In the second installment, 4 lakhs. And in the third installment, 2 lakhs. So the day you will receive 2 lakhs, your total limit of 10 lakhs exceeds. So you are supposed to declare that 2 lakhs through FC1 part A. And after that 2 lakhs, any amount you are receiving as installment, say 1 lakh again received, then 3 lakhs again received, then in that case you are supposed to declare this every time. And this 10 lakh you can say ceiling is from the end of recipient, it is not the end of the donor. So if you have multiple relatives, you are a very good person, you are a gentle person, your multiple relatives residing outside India are ready to give you gift in a particular financial year. So if you are receiving gifts from multiple persons, then from your perspective, from the end of recipient perspective, 10 lakh ceiling is to be checked and not from the end of donor. Then there is a form FC1 part B. On which person this is applicable? This is applicable in case of AOS securities received during the year. So it is not always possible that you have received foreign contribution in the monetary form. You can also receive in non-monetary form. Non-monetary form can be assets, movable, immovable. Non-monetary form can be securities, not money, but securities, shares, or any other thing which is convertible into money. Then the next form is form FC1 part D. So on which person this is applicable? This is generally applicable on election candidates. So if any election candidate has received any foreign contribution during 180 days prior to being nominated for the election. So if you have applied as a nomination for the election and from the date of nomination, prior to that date, within 180 days, you have received any foreign contribution, then in that case, you are supposed to declare that contribution in Form FC1 Part D. And this is to be done within 45 days. Generally, elected candidates, the persons who are contesting in elections, you are a government servant, you are not supposed to, you are prohibited or you are restricted to take foreign contribution. But in case you have received that, then you are supposed to declare it under a form as a election candidate. If you have received foreign contribution within 180 days of your nomination, then you are supposed to declare it under in Form FC1 Part D. And this is to be done within 45 days of your nomination. So if you will see FC1 Part A, F, FC1 Part B, and FC1 Part D, these three we have discussed. All these are post-event things. So these are not permissions. So we will categorize our, you can say, forms and returns in two categories. One is the permission, and second is the intimation. So we have received the gift, we have intimated. We have received the securities, we have intimated. We have received the funds as election candidate, we have intimated. So these are not permissions. These are intimations. So these are done after the happening of the event. Then there is a form FC2. So this FC2 is very important. Generally, people are not aware about this thing, which is termed as foreign hospitality. So what is a foreign hospitality? You are going outside India. You are an individual. Any company, any foreign entity, any department, any organization who is sponsoring your travel, your boarding, your lodging, your fees, your membership, any such kind of thing, that is termed as foreign hospitality. That you have not received something in money, but your expenditure has been burdened by some other person. So if you have received any foreign hospitality, then in that particular situation, you are supposed to take permission from the FCRA authorities, and that is in Form FC2. So in Form FC2, you are supposed to take permission. So it is not intimation, permission from the department for the foreign hospitality, and that is to be done minimum 14 days before you are taking that foreign hospitality. So before you take that foreign hospitality, you must have the permission to take that foreign hospitality. So person who's holding, so now to on whom this is applicable? To every layman? No. Only and only to a public servant. So every Tom, Dick and Harry or person like me, if someone invites from foreign and requested, Mr. Gupta, you please come to any place, say London, and give a lecture and we will sponsor your tour. That doesn't mean I am supposed to take the permission from FCRA authorities for the foreign hospitality. No, it is applicable only and only on the public servants. So if you are a public servant and you are receiving any foreign hospitality, you are supposed to take permission. So any person holding public office shall apply in Form FC2 before accepting foreign hospitality. There is no lower cutoff for this. So if you are receiving foreign hospitality of rupees 1 also, you are supposed to take the prior permission from the government for that foreign hospitality. But it includes that even you are invited for a dinner, even if you are invited for a dinner as a public servant, you are supposed to take permission from MHA, from FCRA department in Form FC2 as a foreign hospitality. So as a public officer, as a public servant, as a government officer, if you receive any foreign hospitality that includes your travel, boarding, lodging, then you are supposed to take permission in Form FC2. Then come to Form FC3. So this FC3 form is applicable on charitable entities. So we have three parts in Form FC3. Those who are dealing in charitable entities and the eminent learned senior members who are listening me, they are well aware about all these forms and they must have filled these forms. So this form FC3 part A, this part A is a registration form, part B is a prior permission form, and then there is a part C, it is a renewal form. So uh, if we are talking about registration, as we discussed in summary, that if you are an eligible entity, you can apply for the registration under the FCRA Act. When where you have to apply, you have to apply it on the FCRA website. We'll check the FCRA website also. I will share my screen once we'll complete the deliberation. It's a very beautiful website. Once you have completed the basic requirement, you can apply for FCRA registration on FC3 form. You have to fill part A. You can apply for the registration. The person who wants to accept foreign contribution. So the word is very important. So in GST, we use the word outward supplies. It is not sale. It is the word supply. Under Income Tax Act, we use the word application. We don't use the word expenditure. We use the word application. So in FCRA, it is contribution. It is foreign contribution. So it is not grant, it is not donation. It is foreign contribution. So any person who wants to accept foreign contribution regularly shall apply for registration in form FC3. If you are not supposed to receive foreign contribution regularly, then better it is apply for the prior permission if it's a one-time foreign contribution. Normally, it takes 6 months to get the final status of your application. So it's a deadline, and generally it happens in the last month only. You have applied for the registration. After 3 to 4 months, uh, the status can become either you receive the registration or your registration will get rejected. But rejection in FCRA is a very serious thing. If your application is rejected, you cannot apply for further registration for a period of 3 years. Please mind it, you cannot apply for, you cannot file second application for FCRA registration for 3 years if your application got rejected. So it's a serious stuff. Do not apply for FCRA with incomplete documents or with with certain basic presumptions. Please try to attach as more as documents. Note that means that you have to attach documents which are not relevant for the registration. But I have told you, have given you an example that if you have commitments from more than one donor, then better to attach all the commitment letters. So these are relevant documents, not irrelevant documents. Despite the fact that even one commitment letter is sufficient, but my assumption is that my suggestion is always there. If you have more than one commitment, please apply. Please attach all with the application. So you are a very good charitable entity doing very good work. You have a track of more than 3 years. You have done spendings more than 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs, 25 lakhs, and you have the commitment of more than 50 lakhs foreign contribution. Then apply for the registration and hope for the best. If it get approved, it will approve for the 5 years. If it get rejected, then 3 years after you can apply for the registration. You can try your hard luck again. In case you are not having regular commitment letters or you are supposed to receive only one foreign contribution, then you can go to FC3 part B, which is termed as prior permission. Apply for the prior permission. Who can apply for the prior permission? Person who cannot get FCRA registration should apply for the prior permission. So if it's a one-time grant, one-time donation you are supposed to receive, or somehow you are not eligible for the FCRA registration, but then better to apply for the prior permission. Generally, it is for a shorter duration for some particular project. Prior permission is generally for a particular project or particular event. Like uh, just giving you an example that there was an earthquake in Nepal. If you all remember, few years back there was an earthquake in Nepal. So suppose if there is that kind of situation, then definitely it's a thing which should not be happen. But if there is that kind of event and any charitable entity who is in, if say if there is a earthquake in, or if just like COVID, so we had a COVID example, that there was a COVID situation and some charitable entity wants to do the contribution. Since it's a once in a lifetime kind of situation, it's not a permanent situation, you can apply for the prior permission, take the prior permission, and then do your entities and do give your contribution towards the society. Then come to Form FC3 Part C, which talks about the renewal of the registration. So don't consider renewal as a auto renewal process or as a cake book process. So government have given you 5 years time. They have told you take the foreign contribution, give your positive towards the society, do the charitable activities. Now after 5 years, when you have applied for the renewal of your registration, since in 2016, first time 5 year restriction came, and in 21 entities had applied for the renewal. Those who are dealing in FCRA sector, they must be aware about this fact that from last almost 3 years, the deadline is getting extended and the registration of all the entities are getting automatically extended. And the current last notification came on 25th of September, and all the registrations are now valid till 31st of March 2024. So those entities who had applied for the renewal and their renewal has not been sanctioned yet and also has not been rejected yet, the registration is valid till March 2024, 31st March 2024. And there is a huge chaos among the charitable sectors because MHA is doing the verification for the entities. They have done the audits for the entities and now they are taking time to give them renewal. And why they are taking time? Because they are doing the extended verification. And those who are dealing in that sector, they must be aware that how the entities are panic. It doesn't mean that organizations are not getting their renewal certificate. So many organizations have received, and it's a transparent process. Every organization who have received the registration, their name is on the FCRA website. Those who have received the renewal certificate also, their name is also there on the FCRA website. So you can check who entity have get their renewal registration and whose registration is pending. So that everything is there. You can track those things. So renewal is a serious process. It is not like automatic process. They can do the audit. They can do the backend verification. They can verify your returns, other documents that you have submitted if audit is not done, and on the basis of those documents your renewal will be done for next 5 years, and thereafter this process will continue for each 5 years. Then next most important thing is FC4, which is the annual return under FCRA Act, and the due date is 31st of December every year. So we'll discuss this in brief. We'll open the form and we'll discuss this. It's a very comprehensive form. Earlier information's requirement were very less, but now it is very comprehensive. There is one latest amendment also in this, which is related to fixed assets. We'll also discuss that also. So you are registered under FCRA Act. Now what you have to do, annually you are supposed to file Form FC4, which is annual return under FCRA Act. Due date is 31st December of the next year. Means if you are talking about 31st March 2023, you are supposed to file it by 31st of December 2023. So you have 9 months. Your statutory audit is also completed. Your income tax audit is also completed. If you are registered under GST, you must have also filed your GSTR 9 and 9C and all the returns. So at the very end, you are supposed to file your FCRA return. So government is providing you sufficient time to file the FCRA return. Along with FCRA return, there is a CA certificate we used to termed as audit report. There are audited accounts also. So it's a whole lot sort of audit. Separate books of accounts you have maintained for foreign contribution you have received under FCRA Act. Separate income is there, separate expenditure is there. Audit you have completed. Along with the FC4, you have attached your audited accounts. So you have filed it online. So completely the process is completely online. You have filed it online. Your task is completed. Then next is FC5. Now what is FC5? So FC4 is intimation. So we discussed what is an intimation, what is an permission. FC3 part ABC, all three are permissions. FC4 is intimation because it's an annual return, it's an intimation. Then FC5. FC5 talks about permission. Now what is FC5? What was the situation earlier and what is the situation right now? Let's discuss that also. So this is also an amendment under FCRA law. What was the situation earlier? See, I'm a charitable entity A. I have received foreign contribution. What was the situation earlier? I can transfer that fund to any other charitable entity who is also registered under FCRA. That was the situation earlier. Now that transfer has been restricted. Now what government says, what FCRA says, that if you have received the foreign contribution, you are supposed to utilize it directly. You cannot outsource the grant. Earlier, what was the situation? Entity A can give it to entity B can give it to entity T. No, entity 3, no. Now entity A who have received the foreign contribution will directly utilize it. So you have to utilize the foreign contribution. Now suppose you have received the foreign contribution for some specific purpose and your utilization demands that you are supposed to send it to some other person, some other entity who is not registered under FCRA Act. Then what you have to do, you have to take permission from FCRA department in form FC5. So if you are supposed to transfer your contribution to certain other persons who is not registered under or who is an unregistered person under FCRA Act, then in that particular situation you have to supposed to take permission from department in form FC5. You have to state how much amount you want to transfer, in which installment you want to transfer, and in which period that amount will be utilized. So there is a whole lot of process you have to give that, and then you receive the permission, and thereafter you can transfer your foreign contribution to an unregistered person. Otherwise you are not supposed to transfer your foreign contribution to any other either registered or unregistered entity. You have to utilize it directly. Utilization doesn't mean that you are spending it directly. You can hire employees, you can hire consultants, you can hire agencies as consultants. That is okay, but you cannot transfer it as a contribution to any other person. Expenditure is permitted, transfer of contribution is not permitted. Now lastly come to form FC6. It's a very important form. It have 5-6 parts. We'll discuss all the parts. So there is a part A. So this form FC6 will discuss only the latest amendments. So with the time, there are certain changes in the timelines and certain changes in the requirement also. We'll discuss the latest requirement which are currently applicable. So form 6 talks about the amendments. You have obtained the FCRA registration. There are certain amendments or changes in your entity, your organization. So now you have to intimate FCRA department about those amendments and changes. So there is a form FC6 and there are multiple parts of that form. You are supposed to report to department within 45 days of such amendment or change. And this is an intimation form. So what are the changes? Form FC6 Part A. It talks about intimation for change in the name oblique address of the association. Information is to be given online and self-certified copy of amendment approved by relevant authority is to be uploaded. So if there is a change in the name or address of your entity, you are supposed to intimate it in Part A. Then there is a Part B. Part B talks about change in objects. So if there are change in objects of your organization, you are supposed to report or intimate the department in form 6 part B, and that is within 45 days. Then there is a form C, FC6C. It talks about intimation for change in designated bank, branch, bank accounts, number of designated FC receipt cum utilization bank account. So if you have changed your utilization bank account, you have closed any bank account, you have opened any new bank account, utilization account, because your receipt account is fixed, that is in the SBI only, that will not be changed. So if your uh, utilization account, so currently if your utilization account is changed, any changes in the utilization account, any closure, any addition, then what you have to do, you have to supposed to intimate the department within 45 days in form FC6 part C. Then part D talks about for the change in the so part C and part D are for the bank accounts only. Then part E talks about the management. So if there is a change in the management of the governing committee, the structure, that trustees, and if that change is more than 50%, if 50% of the governing council is getting changed, then you are supposed to intimate FCRA department within 45 days of that change in form FC 6 part E. So these are the multiple forms we have discussed. We will open annual return form FCRF FC4. We'll discuss that return. Now let's talk about the latest amendments. Quickly, let's deal the amendments. So these amendments I have tried to cover last 3 years. So any amendment after you can say 1st of April 2020, I've tried to cover all the amendments. If anyone has left, then please excuse me, because I have tried to compile all the circulars, all the notification, or any amendment in rules and act. I've tried to cover all those things. So first one is the eligibility condition. So we have discussed earlier what was the situation, that for applying FCRA registration, the limit was 10 lakhs, that you must have spent 10 lakhs on an average in last 3 years. Now that limit is 15 lakhs. So we have already discussed that it should be 15 lakhs. Then second is the Darpan ID. So Darpan ID is now mandatory for the renewal or for the fresh registration. Earlier Darpan ID was optional. It was not mandatory. On the Niti Ayog portal, you can apply for the Darpan ID. You can register on Niti Ayog website and you will get your Darpan ID. Now the next one is very crucial one. We have already discussed it. It talks about the main bank account, receipt account, which is with the SBI, Sansad Marg, New Delhi. You can have multiple utilization bank accounts, but your receipt account will only be with the SBI, Sansad Marg. Now the next one is talks about the fees which you have to pay for the registration, prior permission and renewal. So fees for the registration is now 10,000. Earlier it was 5,000. Fees for the renewal is 5,000 because earlier renewal process was not there. So it's a new process. So it's a 5,000 fees. And for prior permission, the the fees for the prior permission is 3,000. Earlier it was 1,000. And then lastly, under section 41, fees for the compounding of offense is 3,000. Earlier it was 1,000. Now the next amendment is about Aadhaar. So see, this Aadhaar has now become a mandatory document. Everywhere you apply for a registration or permission, Aadhaar is now mandatory. So under FCRA also, any person or organization seeking to apply for renewal or fresh registration or seeking prior permission to accept the foreign contribution will need to submit Aadhaar cards of all the office bearers and key functionaries of the organization, or the copy of passport or OCI cards if functionaries are foreigners. So if the person is citizen of India, give Aadhaar. If functionary is foreigner, then give passport and OCI card. So from here we get one of the idea that in the governing council, even a foreigner can be a functionary. That doesn't mean that any foreigner can be the functionary. Definitely there are certain restrictions imposed, but a foreigner can also be the functionary in the governing council. Then the definition of public servant has been amended, and the definition given under Section 21 of IPC Act related to public servant has been mentioned in FCRA Act. So that extended the definition of public servant under the FCRA Act. Now with this, what has been uh, changed? This adds to the list that already mentioned a set of organization, people, group, functionaries like judges, government servant, employee of any organization, contribution, corporation, any body owned or controlled by the government cannot receive foreign contribution. This is mentioned under Section 3 of FCRA Act. Then we have discussed the next amendment, which talks about inquiry before FCRA renewal. So I have termed it as audit from the FCRA department. So FCRA department can do the inquiry. That inquiry can be I have personally termed it as an audit. It is mentioned under Section 12, subsection 4 of the FCRA Act. If you will refer FCRA Amendment Act 2020, you will find Section 11 where it is mentioned. Earlier, this inquiry situation was not there, but now that inquiry provision has been added, and that has only been added to check whether you are right organization to be given permission to get the renewal. Now, the next one is the additional rules for seeking prior permission for receipt of specific amount for the specific from a specific donor. So as we know, you can apply for the prior permission if you are supposed to receive any certain amount from a certain donor for some specific purpose. Now, in that case, the recipient needs to submit a commitment letter from the donor indicating the amount and the purpose. So refer serial number 63C of FCRA Rules 2020. So if you remember, I have recommended about the commitment letter. So for prior permission, they have sent they have now stated that it is mandatory to attach the commitment letter. But I was always of the assumption that this should be an you can say a mandatory document. That because it's a very crucial thing. You are supposed to receive the foreign contribution from outside India, and that amount is also not subject to tax, with the basic presumption that you are a tax exempt entity, because generally most the entities who are applying for FCRA registration are also tax exempt entities. So I, being a layman, is with the presumption that you are a tax exempt entity and you apply for the foreign contribution, then government should check the source of that fund before even granting you registration. Because once you have received the prior permission or registration, then thereafter you will give an intimation to the department and say if you are a defaulter, you have not filed your return, annual return or any other thing, then that would be a trouble making situation for the government. So don't also take this very lightly that you will submit a commitment letter and that would be sufficient. There is 100% possibility, presume it and mind it, that government is going to check the donor and is going to cross verify from them that whether this commitment letter has been issued from your office only. So for the sake of betterment, the email ID and phone number mentioned on the commitment letter should be reachable and should be reachable to that person who have issued that commitment letter. Please also take care that particular thing, because if government have written for the cross verification and no answer received, then presume that your application is in trouble. So always it's a basic thing that any communicable mode which is given on your letterhead, either on your or any other person's letterhead you are submitting, presume that there can be a cross verification, and if that is not answered, then that will impact you under income. If you, I presume all of you are practitioner, you must be checking income tax assessments. So government is writing 133(6) to the people with whom you have done the transaction. On all these 133(6) are online, faceless. So you are getting intimation on your mobile and your email that some notice has been received online. And say if your party has not responded to that 133(6), then your assessment can have an addition. So this email ID, mobile number, these are very crucial these days. So my always recommendation is that if you are not comfortable in writing your mobile number on the letterhead, better write the email ID which is easily reachable. The email ID should be crucial. If you are giving your landline number, your fixed line number, give the email ID which is directly reachable to you instead of sending it to some other person. Then when you are applying for prior permission, I would take a pardon because many times I really get distracted while discussing any point, and one of the reason of that distraction is that we have not restricted ourselves with the presentation or PPT, and that is the only reason I have not restricted, because many times you forget to tell important things while deliberation. So the first thing, that you have to attach a commitment letter with the prior permission application. Secondly, common members in donor and donee organization. So this is also, if you remember, I told you that be transparent while applying for the registration also, because if government assess that donor who has given the commitment letter and the donee who has applied for the registration of FCRA, they have certain relationship, then might be government not give you the registration. They can presume that they are just rotating the money through this mode. So you need to be very transparent. That doesn't mean that you cannot take FCRA registration, or you are not supposed to take grants or foreign contribution from the related party outside India. That doesn't mean. What I am saying, that you need to be transparent. You are not supposed to show that they are the only source. Just show your multiple sources, take the registration, and government have their own methods of checking the things. If they find something suspicious, they will do the verification. That is in their hands. So they have government have taken their lesson from that registration thing, and now they have inserted that in prior permission also. So while taking prior permission, you are supposed to give common members in donor and donor organization. The chief functionary of the recipient organization cannot be a part of the donor organization. Also, 75% of the member of the governing body of the recipient organization cannot be member or employee of the donor organization. You have to refer serial number 63C of FCRA rules 2020. Then the last thing, during the prior permission, they used to ask that how much installment you are supposed to take, or you are supposed to receive. So it's not like the exact amount it should be in the actual things, but you have the commitment. Say I'm giving you commitment that I will give you 1 crore and in 2 installments. So you have to give information. Even commitment letter can also have that thing, and that doesn't mean it should be in INR. That can be in USD, Euro, or any other foreign currency in which donor is giving you the amount. Not mandatory requirement that it should be in INR. It can be in the parent currency of the donor also. So that totally depends, and government also appreciate that. So see serial number 7 of FCRA rules to 2020 for that. Refer to that. Then the last one is the administrative cost, and this is very important. Earlier, what was the situation before 2020 amendment? Was the situation that your administrative cost can be 50% of the total foreign contribution, but now government have restricted it to 20%, and there are no changes in the definition of the administrative cost. So now this is very critical. Now what government is saying? Government is saying that spend more on the activities and spend less on the administrative cost. Now what indirectly also they want to say? They want to say that the organizations who are working as agent or aggregator should not be the part of this pipeline. We only want genuine charitable entities who are doing charitable things. And what is a administrative cost? That itself is a very lengthy topic. We'll cover some other day, but as the name itself suggests, anything which is not directly correlated with a project. Say you are a organization, you are doing certain projects. You are a organization, you are doing certain projects, then what can be termed as your administrative cost? Your rent, your electricity expense. CEO of the organization who is not directly correlated to a project. Salaries which are given to HR department, finance department, admin department who are not project staff. Audit fees, that can also be termed as administrative cost. So these kind of expenditures who are not directly related to a particular project, are termed as administrative cost. It is very clear that any salary or consultancy fees which is paid to a staff or third party who is directly working on a particular project, that cannot be termed as administrative staff. It is very much clear. So if your administrative cost exceeds 20%, then you are in danger zone. Your registration can be cancelled. So you have to make sure that your administrative cost should be less than 20%. So part of the foreign contribution that can be used for the administrative cost, that is right, but that cannot exceed 20% of the total contribution you have received. Refer section 4 for FCRA amendment rules, for FCRA Amendment Act 2020. So the earlier limit was 50% and now it is 20%. This is very crucial, and the limit has been drastically reduced. Also, please appreciate the fact, if earlier, because this amount you are supposed to declare in the annual return FCRA FC4 also. Next one is the transfer of foreign contribution from one entity, FCRA entity, to other entity. So as we have discussed earlier, it was allowed, but with the FCRA Amendment Act 2020, refer subsection 3 and subsection 7, you will find that now one FCRA entity cannot transfer foreign contribution to other FCRA entity. Earlier it was permitted. So now what government is saying that if you have received the foreign contribution, use it directly for the charitable purpose. You cannot become an aggregator, or you cannot become an agent who received the foreign contribution and getting work done from other entities and just making money as a middleman. So that is this is the simplest language which I am using. It is not mentioned anywhere in the law, or it is not mentioned anywhere in the press release or any government document. It is my understanding what government want to say: receive it, use it, receive it, spend it, but receive it, keeping part with you and giving remaining one to others so that they can utilize it, not permitted. So you cannot become that kind of entity. So this amendment does not allow transfer of funds received under FCRA to another registered organization, irrespective the recipient is FCRA registered. So refer section 3 of FCRA Amendment Act 2020. Prior to the amendment, FCRA contribution fund can be transferred to another FCRA certified organization person without restrictions. Transfer of foreign contribution fund to a non-FCRA certified organization person require prior permission on the from the central government. So this we have discussed from FC5. So under FC5 we have discussed prior permission take if you want to transfer to non-registered person. So refer section 3, section 7 of FCRA Amendment Act 2020. Now the next one is restriction to receive or utilize foreign contribution if contravened. If you have done the contravention under this act, then you shall be restricted to use the fund, or you shall be restricted to utilize the fund. So this we have already discussed. If the central government, after holding a summary inquiry, as I've told you that if they have done the audit or inquiry, has reason to believe that the organization or person have contravened the act, it can direct the organization or person to not receive or utilize the foreign contribution already received without prior approval of central government, even while any further inquiry may be pending. So refer section 5 of FCRA Amendment Act 2020. Earlier, a FCRA certified organization or a person was prohibited from utilizing the foreign contribution only when they were found guilty. So this you can check section 11 of FCRA Act 2020. So what was the situation earlier? If you are guilty, you are supposed to not utilize the funds. But now, if some inquiries are going on and government is of the belief that they need to restrict you to further utilize the funds, then they can stop you. Then restriction to receive or utilize foreign contribution after expiry of the registration. So this we have discussed. Refer serial number 9 of FCRA rules to 2020. It categorically says you had FCRA registration, you had applied for the renewal, but renewal is rejected. You had FCRA registration, you forgot to apply for the renewal, your registration comes to an end. Now you cannot utilize the funds. You cannot receive further funds until you got your registration active. Now the next one is the surrender of FCRA registration. So earlier FCRA registration surrender process was not there, and this was problematic for the entities. So there were numerous entities who had registration. Now they are dormant, now they are closed, but they were supposed to do the compliance under FCRA Act, because even if you have no operations, you are supposed to file FC4. And you are filing FC4, you have to get your accounts audited. And if you are getting your accounts audited, you are supposed to spend some cost for the purpose of audit. Now, if your organization is not active, your registration is no more required, then you can say representations were received by the government and they have appreciated the fact. Now they have permitted that you can surrender your registration. Refer section 9 and section 10 of FCRA Amendment Act 2020. You will find they have said the government now permits surrendering of FCRA registration if the authority is satisfied that the organization or person has not contravened any of the provisions of the act. In such case, the management of the foreign contribution and any asset created out of it will be vested with the authority as prescribed by the central government. So say if you have any assets with you which were generated from foreign contribution, then that will go to the government if you will surrender your registration. And lastly, suspension of the registration. If the government is of the belief that you are doing something suspicious and your activities are not valid, they can suspend your FCRA registration for 180 days. And this 180 days period can be further extended to further 180 days. Refer section 8 of FCRA Amendment Act 2020. So these are the latest amendments. Alongside this, there is one more latest amendment which talks about the disclosure of assets in form FC4. FC4 is the return. And this latest amendment is applicable from financial year 2022-23. So what is this? Under point 3 of FC4, you are supposed to declare your assets. In form in table 3B, you are supposed to declare fresh assets which are acquired during the year. Table 3BA, it talks about movable assets. Table 3BB, it talks about immovable assets. So these are the latest amendments. And lastly, one revision form has been issued under section 32 read with rule 20. So there was no concept of revision or challenging a order. Now a form has been issued. You can file the revision application under section 32 read with rule 20 on the FCRA website from your login only, and department will reconsider their order if they will find it uh, uh, correct. If they find it correct, they will reverse their order. They will find it incorrect. If they find the order is correct, they will maintain it. They will find the order is not correct, they will reverse it. So now you have the option of revision application. Earlier that option was not there. So these are the latest amendments. Let us quickly discuss form FC4. I am not touching the penalty part today. Uh, uh, the penalties are stated in the FCRA Act only. Yeah, you will just read it and you will find the penalties. We'll only discuss form FC4. Despite the fact FC form is a very lengthy form, it's a very crucial form, but considering it's a only annual compliance, so quickly we will discuss it. However, it's a very cumbersome form. Generally it takes 2 to 3 hours to discuss FC4 only. So we'll discuss in summary today, and if required, we can have certain other sessions only on FC4 only, because it technically takes that much of time. So let me just share the screen. So is my screen
Yes, sir, visible.
you can see form FC4?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, please. Also, just help me that we have the query session or not.
Yes, sir, we do have.
Okay, so we'll cap last 15 minutes for the query session. Thank you. So
Yes, sir.
this is the FC4 form FC4 which is available on the FCRA website. Before going into that form, I quickly want all of you to just have a look at FCRA website. Just a minute. Just give me a minute. Let me just share. So hope my screen is visible to all of you. So this is the FCRA website. If you will see the website, you will find all the contents out here. All the latest amendments are here on the right column. List of FCRA registered entities are there. List of prior permission entities are there. You will find all the materials to read out here. Then these are the services under FCRA, information related to banks. These are the circulars, do's and don'ts. Everything is there. You have the dashboard here. You can register with the FCRA department here services, and then you can make your registration. Every compliance is on the website only. So it's a very beautiful website, and the data is live. It's a real-time live data, and you have so many things which are transparent out here. So see the form FC4 form. Quickly, we will see the latest amendment for financial 22-23 is not in this form. So the amendment has been released by the department, but form has not been updated on their website yet. So we'll discuss this form FC4, refer rule 17. So Darpan ID is there. It is mandatory now to give your Darpan ID. Then name of the organization, FCRA registration number, all these things are you can say auto-populated. So you have to refer point 2. What is the total amount of foreign contribution received in cash or in kind, that is value, then the brought forward for foreign contribution from the last year, income received during the year. So there are two kinds of income that you will receive, interest. So this is one thing. Any interest income earned on the foreign contribution is also a foreign contribution. So you have the bank balance in the foreign country, in the foreign contribution bank account, receipt account, as well as utilization account. So any interest and from saving bank as well as FD, that interest income itself is a foreign contribution. So that you have to state interest income, and then the receipts. So when we are talking about the receipts, you have to specify the name and location of the project activity, year of the commencement, and income received during the year. Then part C, foreign contribution received from foreign source during the financial year. And then the total foreign contribution which you have received. If you are talking about the interest accrued on foreign contribution or any other income derived from foreign contribution, example, sale proceeds from any assets created from foreign contribution, or interest therefore during the year, and income from project and activity. So all these things you are supposed to declare under the interest income. Next is very crucial, and this is very important, donor wise details of foreign contribution. So you have to give the details of donor along with their name, their address, the purpose for which you have received the amount. Then in part B, you talks about cumulative purpose wise amount for all foreign contribution donation received. So see, once you will fill 2(1)(b)(2) and 2(2)(a). So here from once you will select this purpose, this will automatically get auto-populated. So from here purpose, the website itself will bifurcate that you have received the fund for which this purpose, and you have utilized the fund for this purpose. This is very important. If your registration is for education purpose, then it does not restrict you to take foreign contribution for any other purpose. But since you are registered as a education entity, your majority of contribution should be for the education purpose. And if your category is changed, then please apply for the amendment under form FC6. As we discussed earlier, that in form FC6 you can apply for the amendment, and that amendment maybe doesn't change your basic trust deed, but since you're working, your trust deed has already covered education as well as social activity. While applying FCR registration, you have considered education as your primary activity because you can only select one activity. But later on, social activity becomes your primary activity for the purpose of FCRA. So, despite the fact your trust deed is not getting changed, but for the FCRA purpose, your basic category is getting changed, so you can apply for the amendment. There is no correlation within the law that you can only receive funds only for that purpose for which you are registered. No, there is no such restriction. But my assumption is that for the purpose you are registered, majority of donation or majority of foreign contribution should be for that purpose only. Now, next one is about. So point number 2, we discussed about receipt of foreign contribution. Then point number 3, we are talking about utilization of foreign contribution. So in point number 3, part A, it talks about how much amount you have spent. So you have given the project name, you have given the location, then the previous balance, received during the year, utilized during the year, and then the closing balance. So this have given a wholesome picture of your fund flow for that particular grant. Now, next one is the details of assets purchased during the year. Now, this point number C has been discontinued from 30th of September 2020. As we discussed that you cannot transfer funds from one FCRA registered organization to other FCRA registered organization. So now this point is will not be there in the current return, but it was there on the website, the form FC4 which is given, that it was valid till 29th of September 2020. Now point number 4 is for the unutilized funds. So you have certain opening balances, received certain amount during the year, spent certain amount during the year, and there is a closing balance. So you have to give the details where that closing balance is lying. So amount invested in fixed deposits, that is there. What was the opening balance of FD made during the year, realized during the year, and closing balance. Alongside the FDs, you have certain funds in hand, FC designated bank, utilization bank account. So this total unutilized funds should be equal to total funds lying balance with you. So these both things should be correlated. Total funds balance as per table 3A, ideally it should be equal to the total unutilized funds available with you. This is the ideal position. You are saying this much of amount is unutilized with you, and so you have to give the bifurcation of that particular amount. Then point number 5 talks about details of foreign functionary. Point number 6 talks about land and building remain unutilized for more than 2 years. Then point number 7 talks about the bank account details. 7A talks about main bank account. 7B talks about utilization bank accounts. Then point number 8, it talks about various questionnaires that certain kind of transactions has been entered by you or not. Say any foreign contribution transferred to any other foreign FCR registered entity, yes or no. Any foreign contribution was transferred to non-FCR registered association. So whole lot of questionnaire are there. Whether you have done any violation, whether there is administrative expenditure exceeding 20%. See, these are the questions which government is asking. If your answer is incorrect and you have given any answer, and later on it is found incorrect during the verification or inquiry, that can become a problematic situation for you. So these should be categorically given after verification of records. These should be appropriate and correct. And then there is a self declaration. This is the format of you can say audit report or certificate given by the chartered accountant. And once this form is filled, you have to fill it online on the FCRA website only. Fill it, submit it, and attach the balance sheet along with the audit report of the chartered accountant. So this completes the process. So these are different FCRA forms. FC1, FC2, we have discussed all the forms. All these forms are available on the FCRA website only. You can you have to fill all the forms online, but you can download all these forms from FCRA website if you want to read, if you want to study. There is a material out there. Let me just show you how to reach out these forms. Just give me a minute. Let me show you, and then we'll take the queries. So here are the forms. To fill the form, you have to create your registration, but you will find all the forms here online. Instructions are there, sample form is there, documents requirement are there, and you can file it online. So whole lot of things are there. Every process is totally complete. Guidelines are there, instructions are there. The process is very simple, it's not complicated. Law is also very simple, it is not very complicated. You will not find multiple amendments in FCRA law. Recently there are certain amendments, but in general FCRA law doesn't have much amendments. But now it is very serious because penalties are very huge. Let us discuss the penalties also. We have 5-10 minutes before we proceed to the queries. Let me just also discuss the penalties also. So we have the time, just give me 2 minutes. Let me open the penalties. Let us also conclude that part also. Okay, let's discuss do's and don't. Let's discuss do's and don'ts and then the penalties. Quickly, we'll read it out. So, do's. Let's discuss the do's first. Applying for the registration, do have a definite culture, economic, educational, religious, or social program. Have undertaken reasonable activity in its chosen field for the benefit of the society for which foreign contribution is proposed to be utilized. Do maintain separate set of books of accounts and records. Do use the FC funds for the very specific purpose for which they has been received. Do receive the foreign contribution only and only in a single bank account, which is the designated SBI Sansad Mark bank account. Do file your intimations, do file your returns within the specified time limit given under the Act. Do preserve your books of accounts at least for 8 years, excluding the current financial year. Now comes to don'ts. Don't mix foreign contribution with the domestic funds. That is the prior and first most requirement. Do not transfer FC funds to domestic bank accounts. Do not transfer FC funds to any other organizations, even if they are registered under FCRA. Do not invest FC funds to shares and speculative instruments. There is specific restriction on the investment of FC funds under Section 8 of the FCRA Act. Administrative expenditure up to 20%. Then don't hide amount, source, and manner in which foreign contribution remittance was received, because MHA have a very strong eye on each and every receipt. So do not try to hide any information. Give proper disclosure, otherwise you will be in trouble. Now let's discuss about penalty. you have received foreign hospitality, FC2 not filed, penalty of rupees 10,000. You have transferred funds to unauthorized recipients. Who is unauthorized recipients? Unregistered, not taking prior permission to any other registered entity, FCRA registered. What is the penalty? 1 lakh or 10% of the transferred amount, whichever is higher. Administrative expenditure, 20% होना चाहिए. If it is more than 20% you have done, then what is the penalty? 1 lakh or 5% of administrative amount, whichever is higher. Next one, foreign contribution is received before taking the registration or prior permission. What is the penalty? 1 lakh or 10% of the received amount, whichever is higher. You can see the penalties are very huge. Foreign contribution is received in any other bank account. What is the penalty? 1 lakh or 5% of the amount received, whichever is higher. Local fund is deposited in FCRA account. What is the penalty? 1 lakh or 2% of the amount transferred, whichever is higher. Organization or person fails to provide intimation to FCRA department regarding the source of the foreign contribution received. In your annual return, you have not given the source of your foreign contribution. What will happen? Penalty 1 lakh or 5%, whichever is higher. Please also appreciate one of the fact that FCRA department also received the intimation from bank for all the receipts. So it's just like TDS return and ITR. Your 26 AS have certain entries. You have filed your ITR and there is some difference between 26 AS and ITR. What will happen? Discrepancy will come. It is exactly the similar process. You are filing donor wise return. FC4 require donor wise reporting. You are filing donor wise return. Bank also reporting to FCRA department donor wise, because every time you receive foreign contribution, you have FIRC, you have the name of the donor, you have the purpose, you have the amount. So bank is reporting, you are reporting, any mismatch, inquiry, and then suspense. So if you have done any misreporting, then penalty of 1 lakh or 5%, whichever is higher. Fails to maintain books of accounts, 1 lakh or 5%, whichever is higher. So you can see 1 lakh is the minimum penalty under the FCRA Act, or the percentage is either 5% or 2%. Then if you are talking about annual return, FC4, so there are slabs. FC4 is to be filed by 31st of December. Non-furnishing of FC return up to 90 days after 31st December, then what is the penalty? Penalty of 2% of the amount received or 10,000, whichever is higher. 2% of the amount received or 10,000, whichever is higher. Penalty from 91 days to 180 days from 31st December. 3% of the amount received or 20,000, whichever is higher. Penalty after 180 days. 5% of the amount received or 50,000, whichever is higher. Alongside this, 500 per day after 180 days. So you can see there are huge penalties. So if you are FCRA registered, there are no much compliances. You just need to make a checklist. If you have certain amendments, intimate within time. And there is only one compliance: annual return, give proper disclosure, and your life is tension free. And now all the things are aligned. So try to make all the things correctly. So this is from my side. I have tried to explain all the compliances, latest amendments, and try to summarize the things so that we can cover all the topics at ease. I am I'm not sure whether I'm able to do justice with the topic and with the timelines and with the audience, but I've tried to give my best. I'm really thankful to ICI again for providing me this opportunity. I'm thankful to all the participants who are here. And now I would love to take the queries. If I have certain queries, we'll try to answer the queries also. Please, if there are certain queries.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. You have very beautifully deliberated on the topic. So we have some questions, and I'm reading those questions for you. So first one is from Dipali. As per FCRA 2010 regulations, which were updated on website. Amount to be spent on activities is rupees 15 lakhs in the past 2 years. Please provide regulation for expenditure of 25 lakhs per annum.
No, no. So the amount is 15 lakhs only. In my first deliberation, I mistakenly said it 25, but it is 15 only. So 15 is correct, Dipali. Earlier it was 10 lakhs, now it is 15 lakhs. It is not 25.
Okay. Second one from Kanwal Ori. How much time it takes for registration approval application,
So,
and
so
how much time it Hanji.
please complete the question.
Okay, and how much time it takes for getting permission on case to case basis?
So see, so the maximum timelines are 6 months. So and I am also of the always of the belief that if it is 6 months, you will get the registration in 6 months, sixth month only. In income tax also, you have the timeline of 6 months after filing 12AATG application. So take it like you will get the registration in 6 months. If you are talking about prior permission, after 3 months. So as per my practice experience, we have done it for so many organizations. It also depends for prior permission. Actually, it also depends upon the timelines and technicality for which you are receiving the funds. If it's for the shorter period, if the timelines are very quick, government used to provide the permission also quickly. Say you are applying in April and some event is going to happen at the end of May. So government also appreciate, because after May, that amount which you are going to receive cannot be spent. So if it is depending upon certain particular event, you will get the registration before that. So prior permission, and otherwise, if it's a general permission, they can foresight that this amount can be spent anytime. Then you will get it after 3 months. Generally between 3 to 6 months.
Okay, sir, thank you. And I hope, Kanwalji, your question has been answered. Okay, next question from Sumit Jain. Uh, Gift from relative is kind. Limit is still rupees 1 lakh rupees per financial year for
No.
gift from relative in kind.
So see, the gift limit is 10 lakhs now, either in cash or in kind. That has been updated. Either in cash or in kind, that has been updated to 10 lakhs. And intimation period is 45 days now. You have to intimate to the bank within 45 days.
Okay, we have one more question from V. Shri Ram Kumarji. Should incidental rental income received out of letting out of building, when not used, created from foreign contribution funds, be taken as foreign contribution? If yes, is it getting covered under foreign contribution definition? He has shared one example with us, like education institution whose major part of building is built using foreign contribution funds, and the auditorium is let out for few days, or a portion of building is let out for bank, etc.
So see, you yourself is explaining your situation and also giving answer to your question. Say if what we have discussed and what I have tried to elaborate, that if you have anything either in cash or in kind as foreign contribution, and if you are getting something from that foreign contribution, that itself becomes the foreign contribution. Examples is always given for the interest income. You have received foreign contribution in your bank, you have earned the interest, that becomes the foreign contribution. So similarly is for the rental income you are talking about. You have constructed or built an immovable property from the foreign source, from the foreign contribution. So if you are generating any income from that building, that will definitely become a foreign contribution only, and you have to report it in your FC4.
Thank you, sir. We have one more question for the difference between FCRA and FEMA. Jasmeet Kaur Lamba is asking, please explain in what ways FCRA is different from FEMA.
So see, FCRA, so we'll discuss what is FEMA. FEMA is Foreign Exchange Management Act. Any business transaction, if it is for a commercial purpose, it is covered under FEMA. and any transaction which is not a commercial transaction is covered under FCRA Act. This is the simple definition, and it covers 95% of the part of definition. There are certain exceptions. We are not going to the exceptions. You take this definition as a plain and simple definition. If you have received the amount for the business and commercial purpose, it's covered under FEMA. If you have received the amount which is not for the commercial and trade and business purpose, it is covered under FCRA. So this is my style of reading it. You can see any individual receiving hospitality, any individual receiving gifts, any charitable entity receiving foreign contributions. So these are non-business transactions. So I distinguish it in this manner. Otherwise, you can elaborate it as much as you can. Consider it as this difference, that commercial business trade purpose FEMA and non-commercial business trade purpose, it is covered under FCRA.
Okay, sir. Thank you. And the last question from Narpa Tukia. Can organization transfer foreign contribution from one utilization account to another utilization account?
They can do. There is no such restriction. So you have the main receipt account, then you have multiple utilization account. You can transfer from one from your receipt account to the utilizations account, and from one utilization account to other utilization account. That depends upon the requirement, and that is a practical situation. Say, giving you just one example, you are depositing EPF, and one of the bank, your utilization account have the internet banking, and they are also comfortable in depositing EPF from that. Your organization is comfortable in depositing EPF from that website, that bank account only. So you can transfer from other utilization accounts, say for which are maintained from other projects, and your employees are covered under that project. So you can transfer that amount to that utilization account and deposit the EPF. Similarly for the TDS, similarly for the common purchases or common expenditure, you can do that. That is not a restriction anyway.
Okay, so thank you so much, sir, for answering all the questions very well. And as we are moving towards our conclusion, so a conclusion on our webinar on compliance under FCRA Act, including latest amendments, which has been a valuable journey through the intricacies of FCRA compliance. And sir, thank you so much. You have delved us all the participants into latest amendments, and so we can ensure that we are well equipped to navigate the regulatory landscape. And I would like to extend my gratitude to our chairman, vice chairman, and committee, and all the technical team and committee members, and especially our distinguished speakers and all the participants for your active engagement. And we have a very insightful discussion. And thank you, sir, for your enthusiasm for learning and sharing knowledge with all of us. So thank you everyone for your participation and commitment to this upholding best practices in compliance under FCRA Act. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.